Ballad of Johnny Arcane by Jim Nail, read by Jim Nail. This is Chapter 11, The Principles of Electricity, Part 1. As it turned out, neither Jocko nor Johnny Arcane attended the Spring Fest, and shortly after, Johnny left the town of King Corn. This is how it happened. Johnny showed up one morning at Frankie Fulcrum's workshop. Frankie had the look of one who had been up all night. In a porcelain crucible under the fume hood, something was burning with a flashing purple flame. "I have a quest for you, Johnny. This is important. One of my scouts stopped by yesterday. You know her, old Darcy Dinkum, the crazy woman from Hermit Town. She said she'd been trying to reach me all winter. She found something south of here by Plank Town, near the river. Some kind of structure, and there was a door into the earth, a vault, a ladder going down, and she said there was something down there that looked like books, but she couldn't get to them. Her knees were too weak." "What's books?" Books? Books are a kind of dolmen. They have information in them, like scrolls, except the words are made with machines, not pencils. And they have pages that are sewn together. Pages that are sewn together. "I want these books, Johnny. I want you to go down and get them for me. Take Jocko with you. I see his restlessness. He wants to get out of town." Johnny hesitated. "It's Springfest. We're playing music tonight." "This is more important than music, Johnny. It's important to Burly Man for different reasons than it is for me. For Burly Man, this may be the thing that escorts the people of King Corn into his new world of possibilities. He'll let you go. Bearclaw and Ant will just have to play the festival as a duo." Frankie squirmed on his stool and massaged his left fist with his open right hand. "It's important for me, too. I'd go with you if I could." They set out together, Johnny and Jocko, on the misty morning the Spring Fest was to begin. Tiller Hogpen and Bearclaw were raising the banner pole in the meadow, Maggie Mender's tribute to the winter wolves unfurling itself above the sleeping town. Bearclaw saw them go, but he didn't say anything. They had spent the night before making music untuned and without an audience by the warmth of Maggie's fire. Now Johnny felt a strangeness in his legs and feet, a tension between resistance and restlessness, to be walking out of King Corn on a spring morning around the grassy hill on the road leading south. Jocko was the perfect companion, for he was a man of deep solitude. Comfortably they walked side by side, each lost in thought. Occasionally one or the other would voice an observation, but neither seemed to feel burdened by the need to respond to what the other had said. "Look, columbines," said Jocko. "That hawk has been following us all morning," said Johnny. Nightfall. In the forest they found a bower of arched branches lashed over a fire circle. Rain was beginning to fall. Jocko gathered wood and kindled a fire. They roasted some turkey Maggie had saved up from the Spring Fest stores. Frankie asked me a question last night, said Johnny as Jocko turned the meat over the fire. How far outside your body do you go? Your body gives off heat, but how far outside your body can that be measured? I don't think he was just talking about heat, though. He was talking about something, anything, that you can feel from a distance. Jocko nodded and smiled his little half-smile. Sometimes I can feel the rabbits from across the meadow. He didn't explain this remark, so it just floated there for a while. Eventually, Johnny spoke. I can feel Lucy. Sometimes when I'm falling asleep, I can even feel where she is, in which direction, how far away, like you can feel where your arm is even when you can't see it. Jocko's response was immediate. You must have left something inside of her then. For some reason, Johnny found this thought disquieting. He remembered something Frankie had told him. For a long time after he lost his leg, Frankie said he could still feel it. He could even feel its pain. Most of the time, he felt it where it used to be, below his hip, alongside his other leg. But sometimes, especially at night, he felt it where it actually was, buried in the ground, in the graveyard, next to the body of his grandfather. Johnny didn't tell this to Jocko. He contemplated changing the subject, but Jocko spoke first. Frankie was in love once. Johnny startled. It was like Jocko had read his thoughts. He was? Who? A girl. He never said. We knew. She died. This sank in through a season of cricket song and rustling wind. Frankie. This girl, Lucy, do you love her? I need to look at everything. Human emotions could send out frequencies. What about these books we're going to look for? Johnny said suddenly, the human emotion growing too strong for him to bear. Have you ever seen one? I have one in my room. Frankie doesn't know. It has pictures of animals in it and words, but I don't know how to read the words. Midday the next day, Johnny and Jocko came down out of the woods into a lush grassland populated with stands of cottonwood. The trees were in bloom. The fluff filled the air like snow, but lighter, warmer, slower. It rose from the roadbed to dance in circles as they approached, and it settled on their clothing and to their hair and beards where it made them sneeze. At length, the path merged with the broad levee road, and the river only lay shining before them in the sun. They could see the smokestacks of Planktown in the distance, but before them, the watercourse narrowed, clogged with chunks of debris, as if there had once been a bridge in the ancient times, but it had long since collapsed. A strange sort of bridge, though. The remnants were massive and cluttered the river's entire span. Fragments of walkways slouched from the broken pieces, and there were shadowy openings, windows or doors, and things that looked like wheels and threaded columns. The water made rapids here and there as it swirled around the obstructions, whipping up foam and spray and sounding a rumble of latent power. A brick building stood on the shore at a place where the earth had been mounded up like a shoulder for the river. It was clearly an ancient structure, a dolmen. The bricks, crumbly and aged, a dull yellow. There were gaps in the roof tiles, and swallows flitted in and out of the rafters. The door was missing. Above its frame, a stone facade was carved with words, but only one of them was legible. Utilities. "I think this is our place," said Johnny. They went inside. The floor was strewn with shards of sharp metal, spattered with swallow droppings. Under a window against the far wall stood 3 cylindrical objects made of heavy iron. They were each about as tall as a man. They had domed hats and chimney-like arms. Someone had painted a face on one of them. At a desk nearby, something caught Johnny's attention. Perhaps these are the books," he said. Flat, square objects, rigid boards that framed layers of something that looked like parchment. 3 of them. When Johnny lifted one, it crumbled like a wafer in his hands. Carefully, he set it down and lifted the top frame. It was hinged on the side like a door. On the plies, beneath, there were rows and rows of lines forming columns with tiny numbers written between them. Most of the pages had dissolved into a powder by moisture and age. But he recognized 2 words, repeating themselves at the heads of the columns. Start. Stop. "That's not it," said Jocko. "Frankie said it would be in a vault." They scoured the room until they found a handle in the floor, under a pile of broken bricks. It took the strength of both of them to break the latch and lift the heavy metal hatch. A putrid stench arose. Johnny lit his carbide lamp and lowered it into the hole. Rungs on the wall descended into the darkness. At the threshold of the light, he saw something moving. It took him a while to recognize what it was. Snakes, coiled together like intestines. They slithered in a ring around the vault walls. "Phew! Now I see why Darcy Dinkum didn't want to go down there." Jocko took the lamp from him and leaned far down into the hole. "Those are green well snakes," he said. "They won't hurt you." Johnny hesitated. Jocko looked at him and smiled gently. "I'm smaller than you. I'll go." Halfway into the vault, Jocko started talking to the snakes. "Don't wake up for me, you silly tubers. I don't have any bacon." Then there was a snapping sound followed by a thud, like a body landing in soft dirt. Johnny called into the hole, "Jocko, are you all right?" After a while, Jocko's voice reverberated from the depths of the vault. "It gets big at the bottom," he said, "and there are books." For a long time, Jocko scuffled and shuffled in the dark. Johnny could see nothing but the faint glow of his lamp and the silhouetted shadows of the writhing snakes. Eventually, he heard Jocko's voice again. "I'm coming up now." The light was extinguished, and Jocko began pulling himself up the rungs with one hand, clutching something to his chest with the other. "They were all rotten," he said when he reached the surface, "except this one." Johnny took the book. It was thick and heavy and wholly intact, although there was mold growing on the cover. He opened it. The pages were full of words, printed more uniformly than any hand could ever do. And there were pictures sharp and clear, like Lucy's picture of the waterfall, except they were pictures of machines with coils and dials and wires, and there were diagrams with numbers and letters on them. He closed the book and looked at the title. The Principles of Electricity. Yes, yes, I think this is what Frankie wants.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if I can take another day like yesterday.